Welcome back to another video, guys. Today I'm going to talk about the problems of options and the power of choice. Now, we have to realize that options affect every single thing in our life, whether that's something as big as relationships or whether that's something as small as choosing what you have for lunch. The point is, there's big and small decisions, but we have to make decisions every day, and the number of options we have has simply just gone too high. And this is actually a problem for us. And in this video, I'm going to go through the problems of having too many choices, but actually the power of making conscientious choices. So let's get into the main parts of the video. So the point is, like I said, options and decisions affect every day of our life and literally every moment of our life now. And if you think about it, we now encounter more news or information in a week of our lifetime than somebody in the Victorian times would have encountered in their entire lifetime. So our brains are going to have to process way more information, but I don't think in that time that our consciousness has grown that much that we're actually able to process and make meaningful choices from that information. So a lot of the decisions we make are subconscious, or they don't make any sense, and they're going to make us more unhappy. And I'm going to go into more details here, and this is one of the important videos, so that's why I have this pen and paper. So like I said, we have more information than our ancestors had in their entire lifetime delivered to us within like a week of news, and that's disregarding things like, for example, having a mobile phone, being able to like Google entire encyclopedias of knowledge right there and then. That would have taken people lifetimes to write, and in a way that's a good thing that we're able to access more knowledge, but in a way it's very difficult for our consciousness to process all of that information. The other example is, if you were to just go into any shop, any supermarket, any restaurant, you'd probably find more options available to eat for lunch, dinner or breakfast than our ancestors would have had in their entire lifetimes as well. So again, you have to think we have way more information and way more options to choose from. And at any given moment, are we really making all the right choices? And is this really having a positive effect on us? And my argument is no, it's absolutely not. Okay? Because there is an illusion that we tend to face now that the more options we have, the better our life is. And that is true to an extent, but I'll explain why it has led to unhappiness now. So I'm just going to quickly glance down and see what else I said. So the illusion of choice makes us feel more happy because we always think that we're only like one decision away, or one more choice or option away from the perfect thing. So for example, people are less likely to be happy in a relationship now because they always feel like, well, I've got my phone, I'm only one swipe away from the perfect relationship. Or for food, I can just order a better restaurant, I can go to a different place, I can order from a different takeaway. There's always going to be better food. And in terms of jobs, you can always think, there's always a better job around the corner, I can always apply online, I can always do something. Now, of course, like everything in life, there is a balance. I'm not saying you should settle for a relationship that makes you happy or makes you feel unsafe. I'm not saying you should settle for a job that doesn't prioritize your safety and well-being and your income. And I'm not saying you should just eat rubbish all the time. But I'm saying, because of our access to so much information, because of our constant ability to make so many different options for every single decision that we have too many options for decisions that don't matter. Broadly speaking, there are a few things you have to consider what you eat. Is it healthy? Is it sustainable? These sorts of things, okay? But when you have like so many different options of what to choose, your brain is being overloaded with decisions and information that are basically inconsequential. And this leads to, like I said, a few different problems. The illusion that the more choices you have, the happier you will be, which is not the case, because more choices will inevitably lead you to more overthinking, and that can be linked with more anxiety. But also, as we know, the more decisions and options you have to compare, the more comparisons you're going to be doing. And as we all know, comparison is the thief of joy. And the other thing you have to consider when you're talking about having more options is having more options doesn't necessarily mean you would choose a different option. So if there's too many options and it's overwhelming your conscious mind, all that's going to happen is your subconscious desires are going to make the exact same decision they would have always made if all of those decisions weren't there, if all of those options weren't there. So essentially what is going to happen is you're going to be choosing the same thing every time, despite the fact your options have increased. And that doesn't sound like a problem, but in the long term, it's actually going to decrease your satisfaction in life, because what you're going to realize is that you're just falling slave to your subconscious desires every time, regardless of the options that you're offered. So what's really happening is, despite the numbers increasing, you're making the same choice every time, and you're slowly going to become more and more addicted to the same things, or you're slowly going to realize that actually you're not actually making any decisions anymore. Your subconscious is just choosing for you, and being ruled by your subconscious all the time and not being able to actually choose is going to make you so unhappy and so dissatisfied all the time. And that's why sometimes when you see someone who's living a boring life, who has pretty much very similar hobbies, who eats similar food all the time, you can think that person, wow, they live such a rubbish life, they must be so unhappy. But actually they can be more happy than the people who have all the choices in the world, because as we've said, it's an illusion that the more choices you have, the happier you will be. Okay, so that was the main point about that part. The other part that you have to realise is, like I said, everything's a balance, and it's going to sound like I'm undoing everything I said, but that's not true. And the point you have to consider is that nobody likes being forced to do anything, and that might initially sound like a contradiction to what I said about how, you know, you have an illusion that more choices will make you happy, but then you're saying, well, you know, if you're forced into something, that doesn't make you happy either. So like I said, it's a balance. But the thing is, when you are talking about, you know, being forced to make a decision, a lot of people think, you know, that's at gunpoint, someone saying you have to do that right now, you're going to die. But like I said, if you're constantly a slave to your subconscious desires, are you not being forced to make the same decision every time? Is that not why you're still unhappy, despite the number of choices increased? You know, it makes complete sense now, you know, when you think about it, because your subconscious is forcing you to make the same choices regardless of how many options are there or how many different decisions are available. Okay, so nobody likes to be forced into anything, which brings me on to the next part of the video, which is the power of conscientious decision making. So conscientious choice gives you power over yourself, because like I said, you're no longer giving into those subconscious desires. The other thing that conscientious decision making does is, if you're really able to think about the decisions you make and what you want in life and your priorities, you can actually realize a lot of things that either other people want or things that maybe you wanted have now changed. And I made this point in a short video, but one of the things that really got me thinking when I was reading was, if you're able to genuinely believe that you no longer want something, you have essentially become as happy or happier than somebody who has got the very same thing. Okay, and in summary, it's because you are getting the same feelings. Let's say, so as we all know, it's very common knowledge now that, but you may not have heard of it, so I'm going to quickly go over it. We think that things like getting a better body, getting a higher income, getting a more different relationship, that those things will make us happy and make us feel complete. Getting better grades at school, it could be anything. You know, I'm just listing examples that you could try and relate to. But my point is, a lot of literature, and particularly in the course called The Science of Wellbeing, has shown that actually getting those things doesn't really affect our mentality as much as we thought they did. And again, it links to that other video that I did where I said, is delayed gratification really stupid? And it's all about the mindset, because let's say somebody who's wanted something, they finally get that. Okay, I'm going to wait till I talk about the next point to actually say what they're thinking. But let's take somebody who instead says, okay, you know, I want a really high paying job, but now they think after a few months of working or a few months of finding different priorities in life, or finally journaling what they want and making sense of what's going on in their head, they finally realise, actually, I don't want that high paying job. And it could be for whatever reason. It might be the work-life balance, it could be anything. But essentially what they have worked out, if we were to take out the example of the job and just go back to the philosophical level of what they've worked out that getting the thing that they wanted, or they thought they wanted, is not going to make them happy. It's not going to give them what they were looking for initially, and they no longer need that to feel content in life. Okay, now if you think about those three things they've realised, what do you think the person who's been working so hard and their mindset was just to get that one thing, what do you think they think when they've got there? They're going to realise, oh no, this isn't the work-life balance I wanted, I just saw the money and that's why I got there. And they're going to realise, hang on, this doesn't make me happy. Okay, they're going to realise, oh, I'm not actually getting what I wanted out of it. Okay, and they're going to realise, wait, this doesn't make me happy, this doesn't make me feel content. So these two different people have got to the same conclusions. This person got what they wanted and realised they didn't want it, and this person realised in the beginning that this is no longer what they wanted. So that's why realising that you don't want something is better than actually having it, because this person has saved all that time, all that effort, all that energy that this person has now lost, and they can't really get it back. So that's why figuring out that you don't want something is actually better than getting it, because you've realised the same things and you've lost less in the process, okay? And that only comes from conscientious decision making and realising, what are my priorities in life? What am I doing about them, and what do I really want? And thinking and actually realising that your priorities change over time, and what you want in life will change depending on your circumstances, depending on your mindset. And so that's why it's really important to realise the power of conscientious decision making over the illusion of choice, and realising that now you have the choice to choose that you don't want something. And that, like I said, is realising that you no longer need to be forced by yourself or anybody else to pursue that other thing. And that's why conscientious decision making is really powerful. The other point about powerful decision making and conscientious decision making is, if you feel like you have no choice in life, if you feel like your circumstances have got you to a place where you have no choice in life, you can feel, like I said earlier, where you're forced to do something, okay? And as we all know, nobody likes to feel forced to do anything, and nobody feels happy in those circumstances. But instead, if you realise that there are options, you can choose to give up, you can choose to, throw in the towel, you can choose to be a loser and never get what you want in life, okay? Those are choices. And if you choose to say, no, I'm going to get up, if you choose, in spite of everything, in spite of all the difficulties stacked against you, if you choose to keep going, that is the most powerful conscientious choice. And that will just drive your self-belief like straight up. People always ask me, how do I believe in myself more? How do I, work on these more? And I'm going to do more specific videos about that. But if you can conscientiously make more decisions in your life, that is definitely going to improve your self-belief. And like I said, if you choose to keep going in spite of every difficulty that's going on in your life, that is the most powerful choice, and that is going to skyrocket your self-belief. And I'm just going to make sure that I don't butcher this quote, because it's one of the best quotes ever, okay? So it's from Viktor Frankl, and I always quote his work because it's best, but I think it really summarises what I said about the power of conscientious choice better than I could ever say it. He says, everything can be taken from a man except the last of the human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude and find one's own way in any given circumstances, to choose one's own way. And I think that really says it better than I ever could in terms of the power of conscientious choice. And that's the power of conscientious choice that you gain over the problems of the options, okay? So just remember to choose your own way in life, and to realise that not getting what you want is sometimes, not getting what you want, realising that you don't want something is actually more effective than getting it. So I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Take care, peace out, follow for more amazing content, master your feelings, master yourself.